few years ago, I led a large project in the UK which was looking at the implications of servitization for long-lived, high-value artifacts, buildings, ships, aircraft, power plants and so on. The driver for servitization there was that in such circumstances, move to product service systems would incentivize the designers of those artifacts to reduce the life cycle costs and life cycle impacts. The first point I have to make is that if that's to happen, then there has to be a mechanism for the designers and producers of the artifacts to be able to learn from the experience through life. And partly what was happening there with servitization was that service contracts were being traded, and therefore companies that were involved in design weren't necessarily involved in the service and support. So the idea of servitization wasn't working there. But also, if it was to work, then we needed very good knowledge management. We needed the designer to be able to gather information from the user, and that meant that there were people issues of knowledge management needed to be addressed, the issue of maintaining information over long periods of time and so on, over staff change. The second point to be made was that the companies that were delivering these high-value artifacts were characterized by some of our researchers as being hunters. They would go for a big contract, for a big kiln, and they would feast on that big kiln, and they would move on to the next big contract, delivering a building, delivering a ship or something like that. And they had to change to be, if servitization was going to work, they had to change to be farmers. They had to change to nurture long-term relationships with their customers. And that leads me on to the third point. That cultural change in the companies is also required in the users of artifacts if servitization is going to work. The users have to take their part in feeding back knowledge of how the artifact can best be used. But the users also need to adapt their behavior, and the word in that case is sharing. They need to adapt their behavior to be much more prepared to share the use of an artifact such that it can be delivered as a service, to share our transportation systems, to share the rooms in a building so that we can heat and lighten them more efficiently and so on, to share the artifacts which we use in our everyday lives. And I think it's through sharing that PSS has the biggest potential for reducing the through-life impacts of our lives.
Nowadays and in future have a co-evolution of servitization and digitalization, and that challenges the whole field of research again. We need a deeper and better understanding of the meaning of ecosystems and what that really implies for our research approaches. Finally, that also means that we need a further extension of our interdisciplinary perspectives within PSS research.
For realized servitization or PSS, one of the important challenges is change management for servitization. So in PSS or servitization, manufacturers need to change their organization, strategy, culture, and so on. And there are a lot of barriers to realize these changes. So therefore, we need to develop a good change management process for the implementation of PSS or servitization.
In my opinion, the three main challenges for servitization arena is, first of all, how to bring the service dominant logic to the servitization research, and I mean how to better understand the value co-creation in this process. The second challenge is how to measure and how to measure the impact, the financial and economic impact of servitization in companies' performance. And finally, is how to manage the value chain network involved in this process.